Hi, I'm Rick, and this is a Talk Tonic session here at RetailNOW 2024. Over the past few Talk Tonic sessions, I've introduced people as maybe my long-term friend, long-time industry friend. So with Brett, I'm going to introduce him as my long-time industry friend, Brett Bennett from Positive Technologies.
Hey, Rick.
Great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
You are current chair of the RSPA board, wrapping up in a couple weeks here.
Yeah, coming up quick.
Tell me about your time as chairman and how things have gone and some takeaways and that kind of thing.
I am so impressed with this association, the RSPA. It has always been important to our business. We've been members for 23 years, either 24 years, something like that. So we've got a lot of experience with the RSPA. In fact, we were with the association before it was the RSPA, the ICRDA. That's how old I am. And so, over the last 6 or so years, I've been involved from a board level and various other levels. And this year, the board chair, which has been a tremendous experience. There's, as part of the board chair duties, I'm part of the executive committee with the incoming chair, myself, the outgoing chair, and Jim Roddy, and who's the president and CEO of the RSPA. And so hanging around with people like Michel Sirois and Jeff Riley and the others that I've been involved with, and of course, Jim Roddy, has been a tremendous experience because they're knowledgeable, friendly. They're, just great men and people to be around. So my experience has been tremendous, just a great experience. And I would recommend that anyone that's members of the RSPA should run for the board, and do what you can to help out, because this association really is a giving association.
So as you know, I served 3 years back in 2017 on the board, and that was actually my speech was, I had taken so much from the organization because people were just willing to give. And, I always try to give back, but that was my idea, is that if I jump on the board, I can give more to the organization. And it was a great experience. It was fantastic. I didn't rerun because it was right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, I remember.
Might think about it again in the future. We'll see. But yeah, it was a great experience and just great people. That's the one thing here is the mind hive. Like it's just people are willing to give, to explain what has worked in the past, and maybe more importantly, what hasn't worked, because you learn a lot by what doesn't work. And if you can keep people from making a same mistake, then it really can move them forward.
So the last couple of years, especially this year, though, we've been talking more about the future. What does the next 5 years look like? What does the next 3 years look like? What are the threats? What are the things that we need to pay attention to now in both our own businesses, but for the RSPA, what needs to be done to make sure that the RSPA is as strong in the future as it is today. And it is very strong today.
It's interesting because in my first few years in the RSPA, when I first joined in 2004, I came in, I didn't really know anybody across the organization. Of course, I knew people who were in my sphere in the dinerware world or in the Microsoft RMS world, as you were, but I didn't really know, a wide variety of people. You get to know people, you network, and maybe 5 years in, a quarter of the room, right? And then suddenly it's 20 years and just about everybody in the room. But what was interesting to me was watching as the board members became all of the people that I knew and was friendly with across the organization, because, as time goes on, everybody that joins the board, you know them, you tend to know them.
Absolutely.
And the same thing happens in the rooms here. When we get into the education sessions, an example today was I posted on LinkedIn because obviously Gary, our founder here at Tonic and Bold, Gary was speaking. Obviously I know him, but I knew all 4 people on the stage, right?
On the panel.
Very well. I knew them all. And so it is funny. The longer you hang around, you get to know everybody, and it becomes great. And the networking here is fantastic. That's the number one thing in my mind.
I can honestly say that my best friends in the industry are associated with the RSPA, because it is almost like a family. I feel like, right? You come to the RSPA and you go to an education, event, and you're like, hey, I know them and I know them. And and afterwards you get to, comment and discuss. But truly, it's a place where you can do great business, but you also have a good relationship with those around you, those peers.
Yeah, I should look to make sure Jim Roddy Venmos me some money for this next plug, but I'm going to go ahead and plug Inspire, because that was one of the things that in my early time with the RSPA, I didn't get involved in Inspire for the first couple of years, and then I did. And what I noticed, especially after I was out of my reseller business and I was on the other side of the fence here in the vendor space, that is where the real connections are made, right? Inspire typically in the early days was just the leaders of the businesses, and it was what's the way to say it? It was always in a very nice climate.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of winter, and so people wanted to go. They wanted to take their families. You get to know people. You get to know people at the pool. You get to know them on an excursion, and you really deepen those relationships. And I remember, it's going back probably 6 or 7 years now. There was a certain person in the RSPA that I didn't really know, and I kind of had him on a pedestal because he had been on the board and had been doing great things, and I never really got to know him. But I kind of needed to get to know him for a business opportunity. And so I asked him, hey, would you be willing to meet me in the lobby at 4:00 just for a few minutes to chat? It ended up being like a 45-minute chat. We went over to the bar, we had a drink, and then from then on, he's a great friend of mine. And I go visit him, when I'm in town and those kind of things. And so that's the difference maker of Inspire.
I love RetailNOW. I've been coming forever, but Inspire is a completely different animal, as you say. It's inspiring. There's a reason it's called Inspire.
Yeah.
But what a great place to meet and learn and grow.
Let's take a ride on the historical bus way back, right? And so I always loved the story about how in your early days of retail, it was you and your partner, Mike Nicholson, driving up and down the East Coast, installing point of sale. So tell us a little bit about that story. I love it.
Well, I'll take it back one step from that. So we owned a retail chain of prescription eyeglass stores together. And I was the tech side, worked on the software, built the software, did all that kind of stuff. And when we sold that business, he and I were like, well, what do you want to do next? And just before we sold out, we went to a trade show, prescription eyeglass trade show. And I happened to throw my business card into a hat to win a Corvette. I won the Corvette. And so literally we started Positive Technology out of the back of that Corvette, driving up and down the East Coast selling point of sale systems. And we just focused on small, retailers, music shops, and, whatever we could get into. And it was a blast, right? And then we started growing and bought a company in Arizona and grew that. And, the rest is history, as they say.
It's amazing. When I look back, I started selling quick sell back in the sales management systems days. And I'll admit that was the early days of my business, and I still had a day job. Thankfully, the day job had a founder who was really all about being entrepreneurial. And so he was happy to let me work half of my time for half of my pay and keep full benefits. Great human being. I had to go out to California, to Anaheim, and do 4 days of training to be able to sell quick sell commerce.
I remember that.
It's interesting how many of the people that were in the room from sales management systems are friends 25 years later.
Absolutely.
27 years later. It's
getting
crazy.
Yep.
A lot of them went on to work for Microsoft when it was acquired, and just, great friends to this day. So the ecosystems and just the overall relationships that get built in this industry and in the RSPA specifically, it's incredible.
We were on very much the same trajectory, right? We're right there at the SMS headquarters, getting training for quick sell, and what a great time that was, right? We learned so much about the industry because everything was new, at that point. And Microsoft picked it up, and wow, that was a ride, right?
Yeah,
we ended up
sure
being,
was.
I think we were the top reseller for RMS for 7 years in a row, something like that, 8 years in a row. Yeah, it was fun, without a doubt.
Tell me a little bit about, I know you guys pivoted a little bit into OpsSuite and then into doing your own point of sale. I love that story, number one, because we've all been in a position where, somebody else is controlling the intellectual property and somebody else has to make the decisions about what to do with their product. I assume that drove your decision a little bit to kind of own the kingdom, as it were.
Yes, that, wow. I mean, I look back at that time and I think about truly we were blessed to make the right decisions because we could have messed up big time, right? I think as Microsoft was kind of announcing that they were going to sunset first their POS product, Microsoft POS.
Yeah.
Remember that? and then shortly thereafter, RMS, we were like, all right, well, where are we going to go next? What's the next plan? And what we decided was that we needed to put it in our own pocket, right? We needed to have a solution that would support our current RMS clients, which were thousands, and B, that would eventually be its own standalone product, point of sale, so forth. So we actually started, and we took a major gamble by designing the back end of our solution in the cloud. And this is, 2008, 2009 is when we started. And the cloud was not the thing at that time. So, convincing people that, yeah, you should definitely take your retail establishment into the cloud, at that time was a little bit rough, right?
Yeah. You have to be an advisor at that point, right? Sell them on it.
So we built it as a back end to RMS and point of sale and Microsoft POS. And so that we could easily convert customers over to our back end, inventory control, purchasing, client, customer management, all that kind of stuff. And then a couple of years later, we went ahead and designed our point of sale. And we again took a risk, right? So this is 2012. And we decided, hey, let's design the point of sale on Android. And again, Android was not the thing in 2012 for point of sale. So convincing people to go that way was a little bit harder, but it was the right decision because today everyone wants Android. Everybody we come to. And it's not a hard sell. So we've been very lucky that way, or very blessed that way.
That really leads into the conversation about being a trusted advisor to your customers, right? If you're that trusted advisor, you carry weight in with what you're trying to sell them. In that case, it was Android point of sale, but they rely on you. And that's what we see across all the partner channel is, that trusted local advisor working with their customer rather than some big $950 million venture-backed company that really just needs to buy rooftops and show revenue and not really care so much about the overall customer experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in fact, I think a lot of us are talking about, who are we now? Are we a VAR? Are we an ISV? Are we a DISD? Or are we an MSP? Right? Because we could argue that we have a lot of MSP kind of qualities. We're going in and not just providing software, not just providing hardware, we're providing services. We're providing, ideas and suggestions to our retail customers. What should they do? Should they go to RFID? What's going to be next for them? And so it's fun. It can be a little bit confusing maybe for the end user. It's like, who are you? What are you representing? But they love it because we can cover a lot.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the MSP side of things. And that's, one of the things that we see in the industry is some of the people that were cash register people that got into point of sale, some of them just haven't been able to evolve or been able to jump into that recurring revenue side of things, right? Whether it's adding payments or it's, not selling deals with a big upfront cost, but taking that to a monthly recurring or a monthly model. And so one of the things that we see kind of creeping in is the people who were the traditional MSPs, they're starting to say, what else can I add to be relevant? And maybe I can get into point of sale. Maybe I can get a hospitality point of sale. I already sell the restaurants, networking, security, ATMs, phones, fire protection, camera systems, right? So it's just one more thing that they add to their business to be valuable. And so that's somewhere to me that the traditional, especially in hospitality, the traditional local providers have to be aware of that. You change or you go the way of the dinosaurs.
The industry's changing. I mean, it always has been changing, but I think it's changing much faster today. There's a lot of roll-ups. Companies are being rolled up, or some of them are going out of business. Some of them, there's a lot of change, but there's a lot of opportunity out there if you're paying attention about where the market is going. What are we seeing? RFID, AI. Are you looking at those things? Are you implementing them? Are your vendors that you're buying from, whether it be software or hardware, are they implementing them for you? What can you add to your line card that's going to be better for your customers in the long run, which keep you as a provider relevant to them, right? The other thing that I've heard so much is you've got to, be in your customer's face a lot more often than you used to, because that MSP or somebody else is going to come in and convince them, whether it's true or not, that they've got the better products or they can give you better service. It's all about taking care of that end customer.
Yeah, that's something that in our industry, to me, it always seemed like true common sense, right? You take care of the customer, and really we're working with businesses, whether they're retailers, whether they're restaurateurs, grocery, you name it. They're taking care of their customers every day. So, you have to do the same. I think it's lost in a lot of different verticals in the world now. One of the things, constant recurring themes in my life recently has been poor customer service. And then when I look into why and where and the how, it's because, private equity has come in and said, let's buy all of these businesses, roll them up under one banner and cut out everything that we can, take away all the costs, but they're taking away all the service. That's a big challenge.
Yeah, it is. And, again, I think that you hit it on the nail. Customer service is king, right? There's nothing, you can't grow a business without making sure that you are providing the best possible customer service you can. And, I think it's not just the end user or the end customer that's looking for an experience. I think even the business to business customer is looking for an experience. And that experience may not be where they go. It may be how they interact with our businesses, right? And if we're providing them exceptional service, exceptional experience, anytime they need it, that's going to be all the difference to them. They will rely on you, and they will realize that they can't do without you. And that's where you want to be, especially in a recurring revenue model, which we should all be there by now. If you're not there, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. And that's what I always used to say is they pay a certain amount per month, whether they think about it or not. Sometimes they think about it when they see it. And if you're there providing that service, that's exactly what it is. They pay something and they see value. The minute they don't see value, you're probably in trouble.
Amen. Absolutely.
Well, we could probably keep this up for hours.
Absolutely.
I want to say, I absolutely appreciate you being here and what you've done for the organization, for the RSPA, and being here at RetailNOW.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. It's always a pleasure.
All right.
Thanks.
Bet.